Hey there! If you don't know yet, there is a new Versant English language test that is replacing the old or existing Versant English language test. Now, if you are applying right now and you're told that you are still using the existing or the old Versant test, then don't worry because I also have a lot of resources about that. Just click up the playlists on this channel. It says Versant practice test or demo tests, and you will have some practice options right there before your examinations. And I'm sure that you're excited for your job application. So in this video, we will walk through what the new Versant English language test is like. So what is this new Versant English test? This is going to eventually replace the old Versant English test. And if you've taken that previously, you might have reviewed some demos here in my channel. Now, if you are applying in a corporation or a BPO company, you might encounter this new examination. So it's best if we prepare ahead. Many employers require applicants to take a test of spoken English as part of the job application process. The Versant English Speaking and Listening Test is the latest test designed to replace the Versant English test to measure the skills job applicants need for successful spoken interactions. In this new Versant English language test, there will be 6 items, so parts A to F. Let me give you a rundown of what you will expect before we discuss each one of these. So the first item, part A, is give a short answer to the question. Your listening skills will be tested in this test. There will be 8 items. Part B is going to be repeat the sentence. You'll be tested based on your listening, speaking, and manner of speaking. And there will be 16 items. Part C, answer a question about a conversation. Your listening skills will be tested, and there will be 6 items in the test. Part D, answer questions about a passage. Again, your listening skills will be tested, and there are 6 items in the test. Part E, retell a passage. Skills tested are speaking, listening, manner of speaking, and there will be 2 items in the test. And the last one is part F, give your opinion. The skills tested are speaking and manner of speaking. And there will be 2 items in this test. The test will run for a total of 20 minutes. Your score report includes overall score and sub-skill area scores in the range of 10 to 90 on the global scale of English. There will also be a detailed description of your language capabilities in the areas of manner of speaking, listening, and speaking. Now, it's important to learn the different skills that you will be tested because this is how you will know where or which part you need to improve on, especially when you are practicing. Or let's say when you need to keep taking this test over and over again for some reasons because you're applying to a lot of different companies. So we have your overall ability. Number 2 is your speaking skills, listening skills, and then manner of speaking. So what does each of these skills mean? Your overall ability describes your ability to consistently understand spoken English and speak it with good grammar, vocabulary, and delivery. Scores are based on a combination of speaking and listening scores. The speaking score reflects the ability to use English grammar and expressions accurately and appropriately in both constrained and more open-ended responses. The scores also reflect speaking with English pronunciation norms, conversational fluency, and in a way that proficient English speakers find understandable. The listening score reflects the ability to understand specific details and main ideas from everyday and workplace speech spoken at a conversational pace. The manner of speaking score reflects the ability to speak in a way that proficient English speakers easily find understandable. Performance depends on pronouncing English sounds in ways that are close to typical norms. It also reflects the ability to speak at a normal conversational pace, without too much hesitation or unusual pauses between words, phrases, or sentences. Now let's talk about what you need to access the test. This is pretty much the same thing as the old one, wherein you can either access this through your mobile phone or your web browser. And then depending on the arrangement that you have, say you're working on site, then most likely your recruiter or hiring manager will administer this test for you. And if you're working remotely, you will be given instructions to your email address, I suppose, and you can take the exam or the test at the comfort of your home or wherever quiet location you want. But you have to make sure that you really set aside some time for this in case you're doing this remotely. The test is also auto-scored using Pearson's highly trusted state-of-the-art technology, and results are available in minutes. So you'll need to take the test with test instructions and a test identification number from your test administrator. You also need access to a computer with an up-to-date web browser or a mobile phone with the Versant by Pearson app. Of course, you'll need to have a really good internet connection so you'll not get disconnected in the middle of your test. You need a good headset with a microphone and a quiet room where you can work without interruptions throughout the test. Now, here are some general reminders for you before you start taking the test. Number 1, to start the test, you will be asked to enter the test identification number to ensure the test is valid. Number 2, you will then be asked to go through some system checks to ensure your audio and microphone are working and that your answers are recorded. Number 3, once the questions begin, an examiner's voice will guide you through the test and explain how to answer the different types of questions. Number 4, each new part starts with an instruction screen and a sample item, so you know what is expected. Number 5, remember that each question is timed. If you do not start speaking within a certain time, the test will assume you're not going to answer and move on to the next question. If you do not complete an answer in the allowed time, your partial response will be saved and scored as it is. It can only move forward. It is not possible to go back to a previous question or re-record an answer. So those general reminders are some things that you need to consider before actually taking the test, especially the bit about the test being timed, and that if you are not going to answer within 6 seconds or 8 seconds, depending on the test, I'll explain a little bit more later, then it will move to the next question. So likely you will lose the points for that particular item or test. Let's talk about general tips. Of course, before you start, you'll have to make sure that your answers are recorded, which is why I mentioned earlier that you'll need to check your microphone. You'll need to test it even before you start. All your answers are spoken aloud and recorded for scoring. Tip number 1, make sure that you are in a quiet room because even loud fans or background noise can cause interference. So you'll have to make sure that you set aside some space for this. Number 2, ensure your headset is properly connected to avoid static or technical issues. Tip number 3, ensure that you speak clearly at a normal volume. You don't have to shout, but then you also don't whisper. It's just like speaking with a customer or a client over the phone or speaking to someone in person. Your goal here is to be understood clearly. So enunciate your words properly so that you can be understood. Tip number 4. This is a key tip or an important one, I would say. If there are words that you are not sure how to pronounce, just try to pronounce it as properly as possible, I would say. But be aware that you're not supposed to correct yourself. So this tip is coming from the people who made Versant test themselves. So which is why I'm pointing this out, because sometimes obviously when we speak and then we realize that we pronounced it incorrectly, there is that quick or involuntary attempt to correct ourselves, which in normal conversations is good. But in this test, you're not supposed to correct yourself. Just pronounce the word the first time the best way you think it is. The next tip is consider which words need to be stressed. This is also important because it can be slightly tricky if you're not aware of the stress of the word. A good example that I always use during my training days is the word address and address. If you are referring to the place where you live or where someone lives, then you say address. This is my home address. Or if you want to address someone, you can say that. Heading to the office to address this certain situation that we have. So you see the difference? Because again, if the stress is wrong on that word, then the meaning can change.
Let's try this quick inflection exercise to see how changes in your inflection affect the meaning of your statements and the message you want to convey. The sentence we're reading is, I did not say he lost the keys. Each time you say the sentence, put the inflection on the underlined word. I did not say he lost the keys. 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 Did you see how the message changed when you varied the inflection point?
So if you're not sure of the stress of the word, just do your best during the exam because there's really not much you can do as it is a timed exam. Review as much as you can if you're thinking of some words that you'll have a hard time with during examination, but on the spot, do the best that you can and then move forward because if you correct yourself, then it may affect your score in the end. So next tip, pay attention to punctuation marks like comma, semi-comma, period, colon, because these will give you clues on where to pause in the sentence or where to stop or make a full stop, like a period. So for example, if a sentence doesn't have a comma, then you have to read it or repeat it continuously, not with a pause in the middle of the sentence unless there is like a comma or a semicolon. And last tip, and also really important, give a single answer that shows your ability. Give the best that you can in that test or exam because you are not able to re-record this exam anymore. You can't repeat it unless, of course, you finished the exam and then for some reasons you did not pass and your hiring manager gives you another chance, and that's the only time that you can actually re-record it. Alrighty, so now that we have discussed the general tips and reminders, let's go through each one of the tests or the parts of the new Versant English speaking and listening test. Part A is give a short answer to the question. This is what you will do for Part A. Number 1, you will hear a short question and will be asked to answer it. Number 2, you will need to answer with a single word or a short phrase. Number 3, you will only hear the question once. And number 4, you will have 15 seconds to answer. The skills being tested for Part A is listening. Here are 3 tips for Part A. Number 1, focus on the meaning or the question being asked. Again, your skill here is supposed to be listening. So that's what you're supposed to do. And then number 2, this is short answer to a question. So you'll have to give short answers only, like a one word or a phrase. Don't give long or detailed explanation. That is not needed for this. And number 3, you have to start speaking within 6 seconds or else the question will move to the next one and you will miss the chance to answer that question.
Part A. Give a short answer to the question. Listen to a question. Answer the question with one word or a few words. For example, when you hear,
What would a person use to open a locked door?
you say,
Key.
or
A key.
What form of public transport runs underground?
Part B, repeat the sentence. For this part of the test, you will have to, number 1, hear a sentence. Number 2, need to repeat the sentence. And number 3, will have 15 seconds to answer. The skills being tested here are your speaking and listening skills. Here are 3 quick tips for Part B. Number 1, listen to the prompt. Obviously, this part is for listening and speaking. So the first thing you'll have to do is to listen carefully first, because that's the only way you can repeat the sentence properly. Number 2, repeat what you heard using the same voice and tone. For example, try to use the same rhythm, pauses, and intonation that you heard in the recording. Tip number 3, just like in Part A, you'll have to start speaking in 6 seconds, because if not, it will move to the next question and you might miss the point for that.
Part B. Repeat the sentence. Repeat each sentence that you hear. For example, when you hear,
My flight was just canceled.
you say,
My flight was just canceled.
He wears a tie to work every day. My car insurance costs have really gone up recently. Can we order lunch if the meeting is going to run longer?
Part C, answer a question about a conversation. In this part of the test, you will hear a short conversation between 2 people. And then you will be asked a question about the conversation. And lastly, you will need to answer by saying a few words or a short sentence. Okay, so for this part of the exam, Part C, here are some tips for you. Number 1 is to listen carefully. I always say listen carefully, because really this test is a lot about listening. So listen carefully to the conversation and what is being said, and then consider what the question is asking. Because this part of the exam is answering a question about a conversation, the best thing really that you can do is to listen to keywords, because tip number 3, you'll need to provide a short and clear answer. You will not need to provide a lengthy or detailed explanation for this. Short and clear answer will do, which is why I said earlier, listen to keywords or the things that you think are important in that conversation. And lastly, start speaking within 8 seconds or the test will move to the next question. So notice that it's 8 seconds, most likely because this requires a little bit more thinking compared to Part A and Part B, where you just need to answer quickly and then repeat the sentence. But for Part C, there's actually like a conversation involved. So you're given about 8 seconds to think before you answer.
Part C. Answer a question about a conversation. Listen to 2 people have a conversation. Then, answer a question about the conversation. Answer with a few words or a short sentence. For example, you hear,
What time should we leave for the airport?
Let's see. The flight is at 10, so we should leave at 7.
Yes, that sounds right. I'll call for a taxi soon.
when you hear,
What time are they leaving for the airport?
you say,
7
or
at 7 o'clock.
What did you think about the presentation from the last group?
I didn't find it interesting at all. Every slide was packed with so many words, and there was no time to read them all.
Yeah, I was bored myself. It had no pictures or visuals at all.
What did the speakers think of the presentation?
Part D, answer questions about a passage. In this part of the test, you will hear a short story, and then you will be asked 3 questions about the story. And lastly, you will need to answer each question by saying a few words or a short sentence. The skills being tested, listening. Now, this is where things get a bit more challenging. Part D is pretty similar to Part C in a way that you will have to answer certain questions. Part C is about conversation, and then Part D is to answer questions about a certain passage. 3 questions to be exact. And then you will answer with a few words or a short sentence. So my first tip, again, is always to listen carefully to the passage. And this is where you consider what the question really is asking. Similar to Part C, you will also have to listen to keywords because most likely those are the questions that will be asked. And according to the guidelines, you'll also still have to provide a short and clear answer. So a few words or maybe a sentence. Again, no lengthy or detailed explanation for this. And again, just like with Part C, you'll have to start talking within 8 seconds or else it will move to the next question.
Part D. Answer questions about a passage. Listen to a story followed by 3 questions about the story. Answer the questions with a few words or a short sentence.
John was waiting for his connecting flight when the airline announced that it was cancelled and that passengers would be put up in airport hotels for the night. John panicked because he needed to be at a very important meeting the next morning. He immediately went to the station to see if he could get a train. The only option was an overnight train that made lots of stops. John arrived in time for his meeting, but he hadn't slept well at all.
What happened to the airplane passengers? Why did John panic? How did John get to his meeting?
Part E, retell a passage. In this part of the exam, you will hear a short story, and then you will need to retell the story in your own words. And lastly, you will have 30 seconds to tell the story. Your skills that will be tested are speaking and listening. All right, we're getting to the end of the exam. This is already Part E, and this is also becoming more and more challenging. So now you'll have to retell a passage, not just answer questions like C and D. So my first tip would be, guess what? You guessed it right. Listen carefully to the story, because for tip number 2, as it is with any storytelling, you'll have to focus on remembering the key stuff in the story, like who, when, where, why, and the outcome or what happened at the end of the story. Usually those are the things that they will be looking for, because those are the key stuff or the core of the story or the core of the messaging. And then the next tip is very important. Use your own words, because the guidelines are saying that you have to retell the passage using your own words. You're rephrasing these sentences or statements in that story, and do not repeat exactly what you have heard, because again, it's retelling, right? So this is where speaking skills will come in handy. Also, do not create your own story. That's not how it goes. This is not a place for you to create your own story. And lastly, speak clearly using complete sentences and correct grammar. Now, the expectation is that you'll perfectly be able to retell the story or the passage, but obviously there are nerves and anxiety involved in this particular test, especially if it is timed. So, I mean, I personally understand it can be quite nerve-wracking, but this is a test that has no feelings, so it will not consider your feelings and emotions during the test. So, just try to be as calm as possible and retell the story as far as what you can remember from it, and use complete sentences, not like fragmented words or statements, and speak like a professional. If you're scared that your grammar might not be correct, then it's okay. You know, we have to take it as it is. Just go through the entire part of the test as best as you can. Because remember, it is timed, okay? There's really no time for you to go back and repeat.
Part E. Retell a passage. Listen to a short passage. Then, retell as much of the passage as you can. You will have 30 seconds to answer.
Mark had always wanted to trek across the mountains. One summer, he took time off from work and went hiking in a national park. He was out for over 2 weeks. By the end of his trip, the big mountains felt like little hills.
Part F, give your opinion. In this last part of the exam, you will be asked a question about your opinion or ideas. You will need to answer the question with as much detail as you can. And lastly, you will have 40 seconds to respond. For Part F, your speaking skills will now be tested. Now we're down to the last part of the exam. This might be the most difficult for you or not, but it could be because you will be asked for your opinion and you'll have to support it with your argument. So if you're someone who likes giving your opinion and 2 cents in all matters of the world, then this part of the exam is for you. But if not, you might want to practice a little bit before this test, giving opinion on things like news, like pop culture or whatever you like, just to practice speaking, you know. So as usual, the number one tip is still to listen to the question because that's the only way for you to be able to answer correctly. And then decide your position. What do you think is your opinion on this matter or on that particular question? And then formulate 1 to 2 arguments that support that particular opinion of yours. So in this test, it doesn't really matter if your opinion seems to be right or wrong because, again, it's an opinion. So it could be just that. It's very subjective. The most important thing is you'll be able to support your opinion or your answer with arguments that make sense. So that being said, you'll also have to speak clearly in complete grammatical sentences. I mean, incomplete, not incomplete. Incomplete grammatical sentences, like a professional. But it doesn't have to be stiff or formal. In fact, it could be conversational.
Part F. Give your opinion. Listen to a question about your opinions or ideas. Answer the question with as much detail as you can. You will have 40 seconds to answer.
Describe 2 ways that letters and emails are similar, and describe 2 ways that they are different.
If you want to review more or learn more about Versant, then you can watch this playlist right here after this video. And also watch out for new videos coming up that will be posted or published in the next few days. I'll see you soon. Bye.